What is up, Rad Potential YouTube, and welcome to today's Radformational video. I've got our trusty, brand new 13B REW engine here on the stand with the compression tester hooked back up, and my goal for today is to make this engine read as low of compression as possible. Now you might ask, why would you want to do that? Why would we want to make a brand new engine have no compression or low compression? Well, I can guarantee you it won't be no compression. But this engine has never been ran. It is full of assembly lube, so our compression test results that we got earlier were 130 psi-ish. And while those results are good, it proves that a 9.0 to 1 compression engine can make perfect compression in a rotary without much loss, 130 psi. My goal is to see how much of an effect the assembly lube that is in this engine has on the compression. As you saw in the last video, simply adding some premix to your engine can bump the compression up 40 psi. So let's see if we can bump the compression down. How I'm going to accomplish this is I have some regular old fuel with premix. Okay, so it's effectively what I would put in my chainsaw, mixed at 50 to 1, which is pretty rich for a rotary, considering that I think 1 ounce per gallon comes out to like 100 to 1 ratio. I've got some fuel in this little premix bottle. It's not just premix, this is fuel. And I'm going to douse this rear rotor and housing in fuel. And we're going to see how low the compression numbers get. We know it's 130, so let's see how low they get after I put some fuel in it and turn it over. The reason that I want to do this, in addition to just learning new things, is a lot of times when you take your rotary engine car to the dealership because it has hot start problems or cold start problems or whatever, most of the time when you have a car that won't hot start, it is very easy to flood that engine. What that is that you have effectively coated the whole inside in fuel because you're cranking it so much, you're not burning the fuel, your spark plugs get covered in fuel, they get fouled, and now the car won't start without tow starting it, doing a deflood procedure, and whatnot. Now, does the fact that your engine is flooded mean that your engine is now lower compression and therefore harder to start anyways? That's kind of what I'm trying to prove. Like I said, most of the time you take your car to the dealership with hot start issues, the Mazda dealer is going to try and crank and crank and crank and crank, and it's not going to start, and then they're going to compression test it. So like, is that specific situation actually giving you lower compression test results than if you would have went and driven it? Now, if your car doesn't start hot and you have issues surrounding your car, stuck fuel injector, bad ignition coils, etc., that's just going to exaggerate a low compression engine, but in most cases your engine is still low compression in that situation. So let's get to filling this thing full of fuel. Literally just regular old gasoline. Put some of that in there. First set of tool marks on this new engine. Just gonna go ahead and turn this thing over a little bit. My hand, you can see that fuel vapor coming out of there. Put a little bit more in there for good measure. There we can see some fuel coming out. Alright, compression tester's live. I got my new starter this time, not just a screwdriver. We're going to crank this thing over and see what the compression test reads. All right. So, the values, I'm stoked. I kind of already saw it before the camera saw it. The values, 109, 111, 107, corrected, 114, 116, 112. So in fact, flooding your engine does reduce the compression. Let's go ahead and crank it over another time, see if those numbers get any lower. 113, 110, 113. Same thing. I'm honestly super stoked that the numbers went down as drastically as they did. So we dropped, effectively I have one number in here that's 110. So we'll just say, using a whole number, dropping 20 PSI for flooding your engine. So if you do flood your engine, you might not necessarily have a low compression engine if we're losing over 15% of the compression because of the excess fuel. The situation I mentioned earlier where you've taken your car to somebody because it won't start, hot or cold or it's flooded, is going to yield a lower compression number, and that person is going to have a better chance of selling you on rebuilding or buying a new engine if your engine is flooded. So effectively what I'm getting at is that if you have an engine that's making 85 PSI of compression and it's flooded and not starting, it could actually be making 95 PSI compression whenever it's, in good shape. Now, this is still not testing this engine in its running state. And what I mean by that is, after this engine gets hot and runs, right, it's going to burn all the assembly lube out of it, as much of it as I've tried to wash out with the fuel. And I don't know that this engine, after it's been started, ran in a car, shut off, and then compression tested, would still make 130 PSI compression. This brand new engine might only make 120 PSI compression, and maybe its flooded condition is 110. The main thing, though, that I'm happy that this test showed, there are tons and tons of variables that come into play when you're compression testing your engine. This is going to conclude my deep dive into rotary engine compression. I hope you guys learned something watching these videos, because I learned something creating the videos for you guys. Not only about the effect of flooding your engine, but the effects of adding oil to your engine, the effects of a hot versus cold compression test, and the differences between a rotary and a piston compression tester, in addition to not all compression testers are created equal. So, in the future, what you can look forward to is I am collecting data in order to present the final hoo-ha of compression test videos, which is a rebuilt engine as good as a brand new engine, and what does it take to get a rebuilt engine to make brand new engine compression numbers? Now, having searched and found and read in all the deep dark places of RX7 Club and RX8 Club, I have found a multitude of different studies that we can do moving forward, which is where I need your guys' help. There are plenty of different brands of Apex seals. Different brands of Apex seals are shaped differently. They break in at different miles. There is an infinitely varying spectrum of wear for housings as far as used housings. Now, you've seen on the channel where I've resurfaced housings and put them into engines and had really good luck, and the engines run great and they build compression very fast. However, is that something that is necessarily sustainable or required to rebuild your rotary engine? Because I've also decided that some housings I have on the shelf are really good, and I'm not even going to touch them with the resurfacing wheel. All of those variables that I just said are going to be taken into account for the culminating compression test video in the future. Now, I don't know how long it's going to be until that video comes out, but needless to say, if you've seen my Apex Seal wear video, which I have linked, will be presented similarly to that. I'm going to provide you with a rating of the condition of the inside of the engine, what Apex Seals were in it, and the compression data. I'm not going to show you 600 million compression tests in that video. We're going to start looking at more scientific numbers in that video so that you guys have a place where you can look and see, should I use this combination of parts or this combination of parts in order to achieve the desired goal of my car and its inherent performance. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Thank you guys so much for enjoying providing feedback on all these compression test videos. These are a bunch of things, like I said, that I wanted to learn and wanted to sit down and do all the tests, and I figure what better way than to share all the information with you guys. Inherently, there is a bajillion different variables in any of these compression tests, and in any case where I'm located doing this and the engines that you have versus the seals, the whole deal. But I'm happy to at least present the data to you. I find it very hard to believe that rotary engine parts manufacturers don't provide any sort of long-term wear compression test data, just any data really on experiments where they've ran their parts to prove that they last and work well and aren't too hard, they don't tear up engines. So with that, if you have some of that data, link it, put it in the comments below, tell me all about it because I want to learn it. And until I compile enough data to make the next video, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to be out here trying different combinations, recording everything in my little log, and I will make a video when I get all the information. So with that, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep it rad and get excited because I'm about to finish up this FC behind me, and then we're going to move on to a very unique project that I've had planned for a good while. Peace.